afternoon, everyone. My name is Rehan Mehar, and I am the marketing manager for Pitman Training Kenya. I would like to welcome all of you to our first webinar in our Pitman Perspective series. And today's hot topic is Prince2 or PMP. So Pitman Training Global is a training organization, and every year we train over 10,000 people, and we offer over 10,000 training to over 10,000 professionals, and we offer over 250 courses every year. I'm very pleased to announce that our speaker, Dr. James Wanjagi, he is the principal consultant of Iricon Group. He also has over 18 years of experience in project management, both in Kenya and in the USA. So just a couple of house rules over here. Dr. Wanjagi will speak for about 30 minutes. Then we will have a Q&A session for about 20 minutes. Please use the Q&A function to send in your questions. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible. In addition to that, we also have a very special announcement from you, from our Managing Director, Shakil Hassan Ali. So please stay tuned with us till the very end. So without further ado, I will pass this over to Dr. Wanjagi. Over to you now.
So good afternoon from wherever you are. I will begin just talking through, and if you will allow me, let me share my screen real quick, and then we can get started. So a little bit of a problem, and today I'll be discussing Prince2 versus PMP, and what I'll be providing is a high-level comparative note, just so that we can get a sense of Prince2 and a PMP certification. In these uncertain times, it's important to make the right decision around how and what certification or accreditation do I get, so that as I plan to upskill myself, or as organizations are moving into this project economy, the opportunity to decide which one of the two certifications or accreditations is important. So at the end of this webinar, we will be able to provide an overview of the PMBOK approach, which sits around the PMP certification, and then the Prince2 method. We will examine the similarities and the differences between PMBOK, the guide, and Prince2 as a method. And then we will discuss the examination journey for PMP and Prince2 respectively. And so just so that we can create context and you can get a sense of the different project management bodies. There's a number of them out there, but the main ones that you probably hear about are is PMI, Project Management Institute, which is the world's leading professional association of project management. And this is the largest professional body of project management in Europe. Then there is IPMA, International Project Management Association, which was the very first project management association. And then there's Prince2, Projects in a Controlled Environment. And this continues to be developed by OGC UK, but now owned through a joint venture between Axelos Limited and Capital. For our conversation, we'll focus on PMI's PMP certification, and the manual that is used is the PMBOK. So we'll reference the PMBOK, which is the project management book of knowledge, and then we'll discuss the Prince2 certification. So let's begin with a little bit of comparison and recognizing that the PMBOK, or the Project Management Book of Knowledge that is used to guide PMP exams, is intended to areas that relate to project management. It clearly aids the development of knowledge and understanding of project management. So when you think about PMBOK, it's more of a knowledge area or a book that allows you to understand standards and knowledge around project management. And then PRINCE2 is a methodology and a process that is used for managing projects in public and private sectors and industries, and that it allows you to improve the success or the chances of success for your projects. There are other methods out there, and you know, there are very many: PDCA, plan, do, check, act, cycle. There's ASAP for SAP projects. There's a number of them out there that do the same thing that PRINCE2 does, but the most widely adopted standard, method and process worldwide is PRINCE2, as opposed to PMP or PMBOK, which is more of a standard and a methodology. So at a macro level, PMBOK guide is a body of knowledge, and PRINCE2 is a method for successful management of projects. PMBOK is highly descriptive of the PM processes and tools. It defines the collection of knowledge and the general recognized best practices for managing projects, which any project manager ought to know. Conversely, PRINCE2 takes a very descriptive, very prescriptive approach, so to, as opposed to the descriptive for project management, and it comes with complete with templates, roles. It comes with responsibilities for the multiple stakeholders that are part of the project. And it's a very process-driven project management method, and then describes how other stakeholders what they ought to know and what they ought to do in projects. So what this slide is trying to help us see is that while PMBOK is highly descriptive, and PRINCE2 is very prescriptive and gives you a very clear plan and process and on a method on how to complete projects. And the adoption of both has been far and wide. You in general, UK, Australia, Europe prefer PRINCE2. From an origination perspective, PRINCE2 came from the UK. Asia, Africa, and Middle East are not strong preference for either PMP or PRINCE2, and the US and Americans prefer PMP, again because PMI, the body that supports PMP and other certifications, sits in North America. I think the important thing for us to note is that PMBOK and our PMP certification and the PMBOK can be used with PRINCE2. So they are more of a complementary approach to any certificate process as opposed to one or the other. And in the literature for PRINCE2 and PMP, PMBOK literature, you will find that they both acknowledge each other's presence and they attempt to position themselves as complementary products. And the sort of definition that sits between the two of them is that one is more of a method and the other is more of a standard, and they can be used alongside each other. In practice, companies and practitioners choose one system or the other, depending on a number of things. The project environment they find themselves in, the organization. So organizations that are already using PRINCE2, you'll probably find that practitioners would have to use PRINCE2. If they're using PMI's methodology or standards, they'd have to use that, or any other methodology that sits out there. depending on the geographical location, like I said, UK and US, and then there's also a cost amount involved that we'll discuss a little bit later. But the idea is deciding which one should I adopt, and the adoption will be based on different things. We'll answer the question around adoption in detail in a few minutes. So if we dig down a little bit and looking at both books or both manuals, Prince2 enhances implementation of the PMBOK standards by providing greater depth and structure to the establishment of project environments, and by providing a more rigorous approach to setting up, running, and closing down of individual projects. The adoption of PMBOK to Prince2 would help organizations identify manual, for example, procurement, resource management, change management, so the softer skills of project management. So the change management here is not the integrated change control process, together interpersonal skills, and in order for projects to get the best, to using both of them in order to get your project successful along the way. So that was just a quick overview of comparing the standards and then understanding where each one of them has come from. What I want to do next is spend a few minutes digging into what's in the PMBOK and then what's in Prince, so that you can get a sense of each one of them. The PMBOK, we know it stands for a Guide to Project Management Book of Knowledge. Currently, PMI is using PMBOK 6 edition. PMBOK 7 edition will be out in Q4 because the exams for PMI and for PMP will change at the beginning of 2021. But it's a recognized standard project management. It allows you, ensures your project management knowledge and frameworks are up to date, and is a foundation for the PMI profession or the project management profession, provides guidelines, rules, and characteristics of project management. Standard is widely accepted, and when you consistently apply it, helps you achieve professional excellence. As project management evolves, PMI standards also tend to evolve, and you will see Prince2 standards evolving as well. And they continue to expand to keep improving the profession and providing the information that you need. So for example, in PMBOK 7, there'll be a very heavy nuance and push towards people and move a little away from the process groups, so that the conversation now is that people are the ones that help you drive projects forward. The structure of PMBOK is neither a textbook nor a step-by-step or a how-to type. It's more of a standard, okay? And it calls on you as a practitioner, as an organization, to apply your own project management method and tool around the standards that have been set, okay? So when you think about the structure, you're thinking about it from a standard or guide perspective. So the process groups are initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, controlling, and closing. A lot of organizations from a practice perspective have shifted the conversation of this from process groups to phases. So you probably hear people talking about initiating phase, planning phase, execution phase, monitoring and controlling phase, and closing. But from a purely PMI standpoint and PMBOK perspective, they are standards, and it's a guide that can be used with any tool to drive your project success. It has about 10 knowledge areas: integration, scope, costs, schedule, quality, communication, resource, procurement, stakeholder, risk. And the idea is that as you look at those and as you look at each one of these knowledge areas, then they allow you to drive your project forward. They are not discussed in any order. They just give you information around what to look at in each one of the knowledge areas. The Prince2 structure does not claim to be as comprehensive, but it's a methodology and a tool. It focuses on key elements or themes and which they identify as being very crucial to the successful assessment and completion of all projects. It has a very structured process and that ties those elements or those themes together so that it reduces overall project risk with several useful techniques to support. The principles, themes, and processes are generally consistent with the PMPdus guide, but PRINCE2 does not include all of the knowledge areas and the details that are specified in the PMPdus guide. Okay, so a visual representation of the process, the PRINCE2 process, the 7 themes: starting a project, initiating a project, managing a stage boundary, closing a project, controlling a stage, managing product delivery, directing the project. All of these are part of the key things that all PRINCE2 practitioners or anyone looking to get certified would go through, and then the different phases, if it were pre-project, initiation stage, subsequent delivery stages, final delivery stage. And when you think about from how they are, the component perspective, there's directing, managing, a lot of similarities, but generally PRINCE2 becomes very, very structured in terms of how it drives the project management from start to end. So what are some of the major strengths of PRINCE2? One is that there's a continuing alignment. So while PMPdus is talking about the project charter as one of the original document, it ties the project to a project charter. PRINCE2 ties the project to a business case. So there has to be a business case that drives the project. Then there's a clear delineation of deliverables, reporting through product-based planning approach, and focusing on achieving them. So PRINCE talks about product-based. PMPdus is talking about process-based. The well-defined roles in PRINCE2 and responsibilities of multiple stakeholders, robust systems and checks and controls, detailed guidelines for change control, configuration management, and project documentation. And this is a key strength for PRINCE2. Change the use of tolerances in key areas such as risk, scope, and quality, the focus on products, the focus on principles, and the focus on lessons learned. PRINCE2 can be tailored and applied to any project regardless of project scale, type, organization, geography or culture. And key here is that it offers a framework for facilitating individual project success. So you can see the major strengths of PRINCE2. And then the question that we've had from what questions would they like to see answered is, who is PRINCE2 for? Okay. And PRINCE2, from a foundational certification perspective, would be for any new and experienced project staff. So if this is your journey, your first journey into project management, discipline, environment, PRINCE2, the foundational certificate would be great for you because of the process and the method that it uses. It's ideal for those managing or involved in small to medium projects, suitable for junior project management, introductory step for those interested in a career in project management. So if you're looking for career in project management, the foundation certification, and in a few minutes we'll look at the examination journey shortly. The practitioner certification, new and experienced project managers, ideal for those managing small to larger projects. And then it's suitable for a whole range of practitioners, junior project managers, project administrators, PMO coordinators, experienced project managers, project directors, executives. So it then ups the game around the people that can use it. It's excellent next step for those who are looking for career in project management. and who already have their Prince2 Foundation certification, because a prerequisite for the practitioner would be the foundation. Okay, so in practice, just trying to answer some of the questions that came out. In which industries, sectors would Prince2 most likely be used? So the first thing is that either certification or accreditation is agnostic to industry, but, or however, because of the process-driven nature of Prince2, sectors that are heavy in process, for example, construction management, and divisions within organizations that are specialized, for example, the IT division, will tend to favor Prince2 over PMP. And if an organization is then saying which certification works for them, and they're completely new in terms of the project management journey, some of the things that they would perhaps consider based on the first point is, should we do a hybrid model so that we have Prince2 for some of the specialized departments and PMP for the non-specialized departments, so to speak, or should we base it on existing project management practices within the organization? If Prince2 is already widely used, or there is an understanding within the organization of Prince2, is that what we should go by, or is it PMP? And then cost is a factor, because you have to think about the cost of training and the cost of certification, and then the cost of PDUs and CPDs, which are your continuing professional development units, and we'll discuss that shortly. That also becomes a factor in which option to choose. And then the organizational environment, so what type of organization is this? Is it a process-driven organization? Where is the organization situated? I've seen organizations that have done very well in Prince, and then they've shifted to PMP or PMI, and I've seen that converse, and partly because of either decisions that are made within the environment, or because the organization is moving to a very different way of doing things. Regardless, I think what we've pointed out is that both of them will complement each other, and that they allow you to drive project success, because one drives a method, a very clear method, a very clear process. It's a tool that you can use and begin working tomorrow, which is Prince2. PMP guidelines and standards, however, they can be used with any process or tool. So some of the major comparative points. One is the approach to project management. The PMBOK is largely descriptive, Prince2 is prescriptive. The project initiation, PMBOK is customer-centric, it has a project charter, it wants a conversation about how we're going to do this project. It's driven, empowerment for the project manager. Oftentimes, PMBOK, you have to consider sponsors, key stakeholders like functional managers. Prince2 project ownership and control is by senior management above the PM. So you will find always as a project board or an executive leadership team that drives the ownership of the project. Adaptation and tailoring to specific projects, that is left to the PM in PMBOK. Some of the processes can be left out if needed. So when you think about this, PMBOK has 49 processes. You don't have to use every single process. If you have a 3-month project, you would not ideally be trying to complete all 49 processes in order to complete. For Prince2, all processes need to be considered, can be scaled down or up to meet project-specific requirements. So once you understand those processes, generally you will complete all the processes. The level of detail for each process will be defined by the structure of your project, the length of your project, and what you're trying to achieve. Lastly, controls and checkpoints. For PMBOK and the PMI, it's generally left for you as a project manager to decide. So you decide when reporting is going to be done. You decide the checkpoints and what kind of controls you're going to build. In Prince2, there's multi-level controls that are clearly laid out for progress reporting and tracking at various levels. So it's very detailed around how you are going to track, how you are going to report, and the different controls around that. Okay. And then the final section of our presentation today is discussing the accreditation. So accreditation, we start with PRINCE2. PRINCE2 accreditation is awarded by Xelos and requires you to undertake a training course with an accredited training organization, an ATO, and then that time or in person. It requires that any organization that is looking to do PRINCE2 go through the accreditation process. Once approved, the organization becomes an ATO. Trainers need to be reaccredited every 3 years and undergo some surveillance check every 12 months. The 4 levels for PRINCE2 are PRINCE2 2017 Foundation, PRINCE2 2017 Practitioner. PRINCE2 has now added PRINCE2 Agile Foundation and PRINCE2 Agile Practitioner, and we'll quickly discuss a little bit about the Agile, because there's a lot of questions around Agile. So PRINCE2 Agile was developed in response to demand in PRINCE2 user communities, and it works very well with any established Agile approach, Kanban, Scrum, depending on which approach you're using. And the versions are PRINCE2 Agile Foundation. This is designed for people who are in PRINCE2 and are in the Agile environment. There's no course prerequisite. PRINCE2 Agile Practitioner. For those already certified in either PRINCE2 or PRINCE2 Agile Foundation, you can go to Agile Practitioner. In addition, anyone with PRINCE2 Foundation, PRINCE2 Agile Foundation, PMP Certified Associate of Project Management can sit for PRINCE2 Agile Practitioner. And so you can see the leeway that PRINCE2 gives to even PMP in terms of the Agile certification. If we look at the accreditation for PMP, the certification is awarded, or accreditation is awarded by PMI. You have to undertake a training course with a registered education provider or any other training provider, and then this is followed by an exam. The training and the exam may be online or in person. There's about 8 or 9 PMI certifications. The most popular is PMP, and for those who do not meet PMP's eligibility criteria, they are encouraged to take CAPM, which is the introductory project management professional course. And you can see the eligibility criteria in front of you. CAPM is 23 hours. PDUs that I'll discuss shortly, 1,500 hours of project experience. PMP, 35 PDUs, plus 4,500 hours if you have a university degree, 7,500 if you don't have a university degree of project experience, and then you pay to do the exam. So just like PRINCE, PMP has an Agile certification process, and the 2 main certifications Agile PMI ACP, which has been around for a long time. Ideally, you can see each requirement for PMI ACP and for disciplined Agile. What is key to understand is that if you're a current PMP or PGMP program management professional, you qualify but are not required to apply for the PMI ACP, meaning that you don't actually have to go for PMI ACP certification with your PMP. The assumption is that within the work environment, you are driving waterfall approach, which is PMP, and the Agile project management approach. Okay, so there's a questions around PDUs and CPDs, development hours. Once you get a certification in PRINCE2, you earn CPDs that can be used in industries, academic institutions, health settings, public organizations, businesses, and professional bodies. The Kenya Medical Practitioners Board, Construction Project Management of Kenya, CPAs, I'm assuming all of these bodies would use your training hours that you get under PRINCE2 as part of their CPDs. And so from a CPD, from a CPD perspective, you benefit when you do Prince2. If you go for professional body meeting like construction project management, you can use the hours as your CPDs towards your CPDs. PDUs, PDUs for PMI are used to maintain your PMP certification status, which is every 3 years. As a PMP, you need 60 PDUs. So you earn things like that, but they're very specific. The PDUs are very specific to PMI. CP more length and breadth. That means you can use them for a lot more than what you can use for PDUs. Quick summary: Prince2 and Prince2, the how-to. Both are good foundations for doing projects right. They provide internationally proven approach to implementing projects, and they address these best practices at all organizational levels and needs and for the success of your project. I want to pause there so that we can just take a couple of questions, and I will transfer this back to Rehan.
Thank you, Dr. Wanjagi. We encourage our attendees to send us their questions through the question and answer function. So, Dr. Wanjagi, we have a question over here. It is, how does Prince2 as a methodology fit into the agile projects?
All right, so the process of and I'm not sure why it's unstable. I usually do a lot of sessions and this doesn't happen. But the process of project management or Prince2's agile approach, and the question is discussing a little bit about the agile approach and Prince2, is that Prince2 already had a methodology, already had a process, something that's working and that people have been using before. What they've done is take the approaches, the agile approaches, Kanban, Scrum, or these other ones that exist out there, and then they've layered them around their processes so that when you're getting the certification for project agile foundation, it includes the agile approaches that are robust in my opinion. PMI is a process that PMI is going to try and make certifications, PMI, ACP, and PMP. But Prince2 has brought them together and created a very robust certification process there.
All right, thank you, Dr. Wanjagi. We have another. Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
We have another question. Would it make sense to do both certifications, or would that be causing oneself unnecessary strain? Would I be a more advanced PM if I did both?
That's a good question. I don't think you'd be a more advanced. I don't think to the person that asked that question, I don't think you'd be a more advanced PM. You would simply have two certifications. One that has a very strong process orientation, and the other that has a very standard and guideline orientation. I would imagine that it would help in terms of knowledge, because you're complementing knowledge that sits in PMI or PMP, and you're complementing knowledge that sits in Prince2. But ultimately, guys, the certifications really help you do your job well, but the person and your skills and your knowledge, but also how you work, is what's going to make you a more successful project manager. The great thing about certification is that it tells you, or accreditation, is that it tells you this is how things are done, and it allows you to do them very well. No questions asked. Then you use your attitude and the rest of the skills that you have as a person to really do a good job. So I'm not convinced, and then we've had, if someone has the time and the money to do them, yes, but depending on your organization and the career path that you intend to take, you select one or the other. If you're a very process-oriented person, you probably want to go into prints because it's very process-oriented, and there's a clear method on how to do things. If you are in an organization that in things in terms of a method, you can choose either one of them. So I don't think it will give you any additional anything additional by having both certifications. You'll probably be spending a lot more money.
Okay. We have another question here, Dr. Wanjagi. This is from Dixon. It says, it asks, between Prince2 and PMP, which one fits the technical projects? And I suppose it also goes around to which industry fits which methodology best or more here in Kenya, if you were to look at it.
Yes. So Dixon, that's a good question. And I mentioned that a lot of your organizations will have either or, but Prince2, the good thing about Prince2 is organizations that are very specialized or process-oriented in nature. So in construction project management, construction project managers have a very clear step-by-step methodology that they use. In organizations like, for example, IT, you will find Prince2 being very successful because there's a very clear step-by-step process that is used. So if, Dixon, you're looking to get into the job market, then the first question would be, what's your career path? And if your career path is, look, I'm going to go into IT or into the IT sector as my part of my career path, then my recommendation is start off with Prince2 because it's very detailed, it's very process oriented, and if you are an entry-level project manager, it gives you a very clear step-by-step. If you are already in your career path and you're sitting in an organization that is very, I keep saying specialized, but process-driven, then look to get Prince2 because it has a very clear process that has a lot of software development. So most software development organizations will clearly be using Prince2 and specifically the agile approach. So to answer the question, identify what your career path is, and if your career path is process-oriented type industries or divisions or organizations, Prince2 works very, very well. If that's not the case, so for example, if you're in the medical field, you probably would do Prince2. But if you're in retail, you probably would be thinking about PMP or PMI because of the agnostic nature of PMI giving you a set of best practices. Right?
And we have another question from Ken over here. If an experienced project manager would like to undertake a certification in either Prince2 or PMP, which one of the two agile methodologies would he or she choose based on a large organizational setup?
So you're an experienced project manager and you are looking to decide which one of the certifications you would take. First question I'd ask, is there an existing project management discipline standard methodology that is being used within the organization? If there is, it's prudent to take certification around that. So if Prince2 is being used within the organization and you're experienced and you've had the experience, but now you want to get into certification and you're in an organization where Prince2 is being used, my recommendation and get a Prince2 certification, do foundation very quickly and get the practitioner for both your art, because of course in these very uncertain times, the agile project management certifications will be key. If you are an experienced project manager, of course, in an agile and different, you have most people using a PMP type methodology or using the standards of PMP, of PMI PMBOK, then you get the PMI PMBOK. If there is no standard that is being used and you are the PMP, you're a project manager, sorry, that wants to help the organization get into the project management discipline and standards, a lot of that is going to be defined by how and what the organization does. If you sit in a very software development type company, Prince2 would be your best bet. If you sit in some of these other larger companies that have different divisions and different things, then it really would be a personal preference at that point and what the organization would be willing to pay for. I was talking to Pitman and Pitman training, and I was saying, look, guys, the thing that we have to think about is that ultimately, whatever a practitioner is exposed to, eventually that's where they will begin to gravitate towards. So if I'm more exposed to Prince2, whether it's my friends, whether it's the environment, I'll tend to gravitate towards Prince2. If I'm more exposed to PMI PMBOK and PMP, I'll gravitate towards PMBOK PMP. But there's very clear delineation, especially if you have a software development. You'll find a lot of them will move towards the agile approach of Prince2. Right?
Right. So we have one other question, and this is for one of our other attendees. I am just starting out my career. I want to be in IT. Should I do Prince2 Foundation, then directly go to Prince2 Agile Practitioner? Or should I do Foundation, Practitioner, and then Agile Practitioner?
So if you want to go the Prince2 route, do Prince2 Agile Foundation and then go directly to Agile Practitioner. If you've already done Foundation, even though it's not Agile, you can go to Practitioner, Agile Practitioner. But if you've not done them, you need to do the Agile Foundation and then go into the Agile Practitioner. So that then you get both of the process driven that sits within Prince2 and the Agile approach that you can incorporate in any organization.
All right, thank you, Dr. Wanjagi. So I think these are all the questions that we've gotten so far. So what we would like to do is to do a little poll, essentially, with our attendees, that after the session with Dr. Wanjagi, what is it that you would like to do? Which project management certification do you feel best suits your career objectives, Prince2 or project management? So kindly vote and let us know what you think. Which project management certification do you feel best suits your career objectives? And now I would like to hand over to our Managing Director, Shakil Hassan Ali. Shakil, over to you.
Thank you, Rehan. Thank you, Dr. Wanjagi. That was a fantastic presentation. Apologies to everyone if you weren't able to hear Dr. Wanjagi clearly at some point in time. What we'll aim to do is get some of those questions back and get them out to you in an FAQ when we send you through the webinar recording. But clearly a very hot topic and a lot of a lot of you have joined the call today. Thank you for those that have joined very much from different parts of the world. Clearly have a certain question in mind in terms of what is the correct direction for me to take. And I think clearly from the messaging that we've got from Dr. Wanjagi is that there is clearly a very balanced approach to take with regard to considerations on where your experience is, what your future career direction would be, what industry you're likely to play in. But also they complement each other and you can build up understanding from both the methodology and the knowledge base that both Prince and PMP give. So there's no, essentially, I guess from the presentation, a very clear-cut answer, but there's clearly some filters that you can always apply to guide your potential career trajectory. So in order to get a lot of you guys started on that journey, we've put together two fantastic offers. So the first one is, so Rehan, if you can kindly change the slide to the next one. Yeah, the first one is on Prince 2 Foundation and Practitioner. So at Pitman Training, we offer a fully self-paced learning option. We've put together two valid offers up to the 31st of July if you register, and the link has just gone through in the chat section for you to register. Within these programs, you can either choose to join us on Prince 2 Foundation or Prince 2 Practitioner, depending on where your qualifications currently sit. Alternatively, you can also go after the bundle. Both of them have been heavily reduced just exclusively for those that have attended the webinar today. Now, what do you get as part of that course fee? So the course is delivered fully online, but you also get extreme tutor-led support at any point in time. The examination cost with Prince 2 is also included, as well as any examination preparation material and the PMBOK, or sorry, the Prince 2 guide, which generally goes for around $100. So with Pitman Training, when you train with us, you not only get the prestigious Pitman Training certification to say that you have completed your course with a globally renowned and globally accredited player, but we also provide CPD points with every single course. So for the Prince 2 Foundation, which is a 50-hour course, you would get 50 CPD points, and for the Practitioner it would be 40. And as Dr. Wanjagi mentioned, those CPD points are valuable for you to maintain your certification at Practitioner level, or indeed become a member of Axelos in the future as well. So we've got those two fantastic offers available for you. As some of the questions have come through in terms of if I'm looking to start my journey and say I'm in IT, should I start off with Prince 2 Agile and incorporate some of those learnings? Absolutely. So we're also putting together some fantastic offers for those of you that are maybe interested in Prince 2 Foundation with Agile or Practitioner with Agile. So the link is in the chat, and feel free to register your interest, and one of our teams will be in touch with you to discuss how we can support that journey for you. Now, secondly, we've also put together a fantastic offer for those of you that would like to potentially take the PMP route. So if we move on to the next slide, Rehan. So working with Dr. Wanjagi specifically, he has agreed to extend a special offer purely for those that have attended today's webinar. And I'll let him now I'll pass on to him to cover off some of the details, but that is again available to you to register through that link up to the 31st of July and unlock that pricing specifically for you. And I'll let Dr. Wanjagi just talk about some of the additional benefits with his training.
Thank you, Shakil. So the offer that we are extending until the end of July is that for 45,000 Kenya shillings only, we will provide you with the prep cost in preparation for the PMP certification. We cover the overview of project management, the project management process groups. We cover the team prep course that I facilitate online. We also, for free, give you examination questions for each and every knowledge area. 200 exam questions with answers. A formula sheet that helps you so that you can easily have all your formula sheets in one form. There's a class recording for each session so that you can review that post-class. The presentation itself in PDF for the entire content. Makes the ITTO sheet. This sheet is perhaps one of the widely used and most sought sheets around project management certification. And then what I commit is a study plan that guarantees success. So if you follow our study plan, we guarantee you 100% exam pass rate, and then coaching and support throughout the exam certification journey post the training. Oftentimes, most organizations will complete with you the prep course and then let you follow your own journey. We work with you, we coach you, and we support you through the exam journey, up to and including the study plan and making sure that you're prepared and ready for the exam. Again, working with Pitman Training, thank you very much, Pitman Training, for supporting IRECON through this journey. We will be offering this at 45,000. Back to you, Shaquille.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So as I said, put together 2 exclusive offers, whichever direction you want to take, and we are putting together one on Prince 2 Agile as well. So use that link, register, and we will come back to you within the next few days to help you kickstart your journey towards certification. I've noted there's been maybe a couple more questions that have come in, so apologies if we've run out of time. We will answer those through an FAQ, and we'll get those answers to you when we send through the recording as well. Okay, but in the meantime, of course, if you do have any specific questions for Dr. Wanjagi, then his contact details, of course, we shared and we will share again. You can reach out to him directly or indeed come back to us at Pitman Training and we can refer any questions around certification or any other types of understanding you might want to help guide your journey and your certification. Okay, so I'll pass over to Rehan. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Everyone, thank you very much for joining us. Like Skill said, that we will share a recording with you, and we will also answer all your questions that you have shared with which didn't have the time to answer. You can also reach out to us. We have shared our contact details over here, both our phone number, email address, our physical address, and our website. Again, thank you very much for your time, for joining us, and we hope to see you in our next webinar. Bye.